Versatile Mage. Chapter 636. The catastrophe that's just around the corner. I'm not entirely sure, but I think someone else is watching a village apart from the people of the Black Vatican. It's the reason why they didn't get too aggressive on me. Otherwise, I would have been dead now, Zhang Xiaohou admitted sternly. Mo Fan was stunned and immediately looked at Lu Ru. Lu Ru softly nodded and said, "It must be the same person who gave me the blood serums. Then you've made the right choice to pretend that you were suffering from amnesia. The Black Vatican would have to send out blue deacons to kill you, but since the plan related to the rain is their first priority, the blue deacons would not show up so easily, as they had to be even more cautious." Mo Fan nodded. That being said, Mo Fan almost broke into a sweat after re-evaluating the situation. Mo Fan did speculate that Zhang Xiaohou was putting up an act as a disguise, but he never thought so many people were actually watching him. "So what did you see?" Su Xiaoluo finally ran out of patience. Now that they had gotten rid of the spy Hong Jun, Zhang Xiaohou could finally tell them the truth. What did you see?" Mo Fan's voice sank. Zhang Xiaohou had endured such hardships just to protect the information. It must be extremely important and might be related to this huge conspiracy looming over the city. "He was wearing a mask. I couldn't recognize him, but the people of the Black Vatican called him Great Deacon Hu Jin," said Zhang Xiaohou. "Great Deacon Hu Jin." Mo Fan was confused. "He's in charge of all the blue deacons of the Black Vatican, Salon's right-hand man. He must have played an extremely important role in this conspiracy." Fang Gu slowly walked out from the shadows and glanced at the trembling villagers coldly. "How do you know?" asked Lu Ru. "I had contact with the Black Vatican before. I purposely left one of their people alive to learn who was trying to hunt me down. The man was a tough one, so I had no choice but to threaten him with the undith, forcing him to spill the beans," replied Fang Gu. "But the Black Vatican is very strict about keeping their identities a secret. If that woman was still alive, we might be able to learn more information," said Lu Ru. "Forget it. For something as huge as this, the blue deacons are only in charge of a small part of the whole thing. They won't know the details. If we really want to know what the next move is, we'll have to find this Great Deacon Hu Jin," said Fang Gu confidently. "Howzy, why were they trying to kill you? You didn't even see his face," said Mo Fan in confusion. "I heard his voice, and somehow it felt slightly familiar, but I can't remember who the person is," said Zhang Xiaohou. "Familiar? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that I've heard the voice in Bo City. It was raining quite heavily that day, but I can surely identify the person if I hear his voice again," said Zhang Xiaohou in a serious tone. Mo Fan frowned as his breathing intensified. It turned out that someone from the Black Vatican was right around them. "I believe he knows me, too. He must be worried that I would recognize his voice. Thus, he immediately sent his men to silence me. Even after I reached to a village, he still asked Hong Jun to spy on me. If I did something that would pose the slightest threat of revealing his identity, he would eliminate me and the people around me at once," said Zhang Xiaohou. "So you've pretended to stay with me like a retard just so the spy wouldn't feel suspicious," said Su Xiaoluo. "Well, that's not it." Zhang Xiaohu's face blushed. "What is it then?" Su Xiaoluo pursued further. "To repay your kindness for saving his life. We'll talk about the romance between you two later. Howzy, can't you remember whose voice it was? If we can learn his identity. You mentioned that he's from Bo City," blurted out Mo Fan. "Yeah, he must be someone from Bo City. Maybe he's someone we both saw before," said Zhang Xiaohou confidently. "But there were many people that were allocated here to the ancient capital. How can we find this Great Deacon Hu Jin?" said Lu Ru. Lu Ru and Mo Fan had already paid a visit to Bo City Street. Only a small group of people from Bo City were living there, while the others were scattered across the ancient capital. The information Zhang Xiaohou had brought back was crucial, yet it was too vague. "Come, let's look for Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, and the others." They have spent a longer time in the ancient capital. Maybe they can help us find this great deacon Hu Jin. On top of that, we should tell Zhu Meng about it, too, said Mo Fan. I'll come with you, I'll help too, said Fang Gu. Oh, I thought you were going to kill the rest of them. As the saying goes, drop the butcher's knife and immediately become a Buddha. Mo Fan looked at Fang Gu in surprise. I've already avenged my people. I'll turn myself into the enforcement union when we reach the inner city if we manage to survive. Fang Gu turned his head around for a glance behind them. A dense mass of black moving figures. A shocking sight. The ocean of undead was already less than a kilometer away. When the noise from the shaking ground reached a certain level, it felt like the whole place had fallen into dead silence. When everyone turned around after they were done with the Black Vatican, they could smell the approaching death, darkness, and fear, the sense of being caught in an ocean of despair that could overwhelm their souls. It felt like their hearts were close to exploding from their fear of the approaching calamity. The shocking undead tide was strong enough to crush the buildings, parks, streets, and schools, and humans were incredibly tiny. On the other hand, the inner city was covered in a golden barrier. The inner walls had stood tall for over 1,000 years, but could it survive this calamity of undead? Everything behind them was turned into nothing. The army of undead did not need to do anything. They were simply advancing forward, bringing darkness upon the city. It felt like both the sky and the ground were filled with them. The inner city under the protection of the golden barrier had turned into an isolated island surrounded by a black ocean with no visible end. The tide surged fiercely, shrouding the sky and the sun. The inner city quaked vigorously and felt like it would be devoured at any second. The soldiers stood in lines on the walls. Their eyes were full of terror, regardless of their ranks. The time had come after all. The undead had overrun the outer city and devoured half of the city. Those who did not escape to the inner city in time were all dead, as there was zero chance for them to survive. The cries of the undead were so loud that the inner city was shaking constantly, but the world was immersed in dead silence. As the ocean of undead, pitch black flesh, hills of skeletons, and tides of phantoms, came closer, the people almost felt their hearts shattering to pieces from the overwhelming shock. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 637. The Helpless City. Northern Gate. The crowd was tiny like sand, pushing their way toward the inner walls slowly. However, the black tide had already arrived. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, death was lingering in every corner, as destruction like that of an apocalypse descended. In the past, the people standing on the walls would see the city as a flourishing scene of prosperity. Even though it was not as colorful and luxurious as Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, the unique atmosphere of the city after the history it had gone through was somewhat attractive. Every brick and tile had its own touching story. Now, the black storms consisted of the savage undead. The scene of an apocalypse was looming right over the city, crushing the life and buildings into nothing. Cries and screams filled the cold air, each full of despair. No one knew the number of people that had failed to reach the inner city safely. However, the sight of the crowded inner city, with so many people in tears while uttering cries of despair, was enough to imply that there were still countless people out there. The inner city gradually fell silent. No one had the energy or mood to ask around for information about the close ones. The overwhelming calamity had crushed the dignity, integrity, and questioning. It was heaven's will to destroy the city. Once the city was destroyed, it would then lead them into utter destruction. The streets were fully crowded with people. Vehicles were no longer allowed to occupy the usual spots. The people curled up in the corners, crying tears of despair and hiding their heads between their legs. They were clueless whether they should wait patiently for the death or continue to pray so they could survive the calamity. Even the expected noise such a huge crowd would normally make was no longer present. The majority of the people already had their souls crushed by the calamity, leaving only empty shells behind. More tears were shed than the raindrops. The chill in their hearts was stronger than the cold of winter. No one could care less about the personal gain or loss, or if they could stay in spots that were slightly cozier. After all, they had no chance of escaping from the fate of being devoured by the ocean of undead. Perhaps everyone had already fallen into the kingdom of the dead, where humans appeared to be so petty and minuscule. Zhang Xiaohou kept on taking deep breaths and clenching his fists as he weaved through the crowd on the streets full of people. Useless. He was so useless. He had seen the people of Black Vatican planning something close to the ancient capital so much earlier, yet why did he not suspect that they were plotting to invoke such a disaster? Most importantly, he had already heard the great Deacon Hu Jin's voice, yet why could he not remember who the person was? If they were able to deal with the Black Vatican earlier, they could have avoided this disaster. The people on the streets were stacked together regardless of age or gender. Everyone had a blank face, not because of the apocalypse surrounding the tiny inner city, but because of the memories of their families and friends being devoured by the undead, robbing them of the motivation to live further. To many people, even the death of someone close to them was seen as the apocalypse, let alone when they were left all alone in this world. "What is it?" asked Su Xiaoluo, when she saw Zhang Xiaohu's eyes reddening. Zhang Xiaohu wiped his wet eyes and inhaled a mouthful of the sour air before he said, "The year we graduated from high school, when our Bo City was turned into rivers of blood, I told myself that I would not let anything like this happen again. I must become stronger, strong enough to destroy anything that would bring despair to mankind. But after all these years, the same thing is happening again. More people are dead, more magicians have been sacrificed, and I'm still the same as the old me, unable to do anything. I can only watch it all happen, like a useless piece of trash." The sense of feeling tiny was something that Zhang Xiaohu hated to the bones. The golden barrier protecting the inner city would not last for long. In no time, he would be watching the people around him dying again. He had already experienced it before. He would rather die than suffer the same torture again. He wanted to do something. When he saw the people suffering around him, he wanted to help them. Anything was better than pettily waiting for the deaths. "It's not your fault, it's just that the Black Vatican are a bunch of cunning lunatics. It's not like you didn't do anything either. At least you've learned that someone behind this conspiracy is from Bo City. Perhaps we can find out who the great Deacon Hu Jin is once Mo Fan finds your old classmates." Su Xiaoluo tried to comfort him. As soon as Su Xiaoluo finished her sentence, she saw a few people approaching him among the crowd. The person leading them was none other than Mo Fan, still in his same black shirt. "Mo Fan, over here." Su Xiaoluo waved her hand. Mo Fan led Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, Zhao Kunsen, and Wang Sanpang over to them. He glanced at Fang Gu, who had stayed with them, and let out a wry smile when he saw Zhang Xiaohu's bloodshot eyes. Mu Bai and the others were wearing the same unpleasant looks. They had witnessed the same thing before too. They thought everything was already in the past, yet it turned out that a scarier nightmare had arrived. "I've told them about the situation. Howsy, they are going to say the names of the people they know, and you'll do some deductions. We have to find out who the great Deacon Hu Jin is as soon as possible, and inform Councilman Zhu Meng at once so the authorities can react accordingly," Mo Fan said to Zhang Xiaohu. Zhang Xiaohu nodded grimly. Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, Zhao Kunsen, and Wang Sanpang had grim expressions too. They had taken a while to calm down after learning the truth from Mo Fan. "I'll go first. Among the people I know, only Lin Yuxing and Deng Kai are magicians. I haven't seen Lin Yuxing for many years. She took great care of me when we first came to the ancient capital," said Zhou Ming. "Lin Yuxing, she's here too." Mo Fan was slightly surprised. The attractive girl in a white uniform with a strong sense of justice immediately crossed Mo Fan's mind when her name was mentioned. It was Lin Yuxing who handed him the underground holy spring at Bo City. She had put her life at stake just to protect the precious underground holy spring. She was definitely one of the reasons why Bo City was not entirely wiped out. There's no way Lin Yuxing is on the Black Vatican's side, said Mo Fan confidently. How about Deng Kai? Asked Mu Bai. Deng Kai was a superior in the Hunter Union. He had fought hard to protect Bo City, too. After Headmaster Xiao died in the calamity, Deng Kai was supposed to replace him as the headmaster of Tianlan Magic High. However, Bo City was turned into a military station, and Tianlan Magic High was now a military academy. Deng Kai had moved to the ancient capital too. Deng Kai's voice is quite unique, I still remember it. I don't think he's the one, said Zhang Xiaoho, shaking his head. Mu Bai, your turn. You would know most of them, said Mo Fan. Mu Bai fell into a thoughtful state. It seemed like he had something to say, but he had no idea where to start. Mu Bai, what are you doing? We're running out of time. Don't you want to find out who the person from Black Vatican is? Don't forget that they are the ones who destroyed our hometown. We must get our revenge, yelled Zhou Ming. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 638. The Inescapable Danger. Mu Bai reacted even more suspiciously as everyone set the gaze on him. Mu Bai, don't tell me. Your cultivation did improve a lot over the years. Wang Sanpang looked at Mu Bai in fear. Hey fatty, enough with your nonsense. There's no way Mu Bai is one of the Black Vatican. He hated them more than any of us. Don't think that you're the only one whose families died at their hands, yelled Zhao Kunsen, his face blushing. I'm sure Mu Bai isn't, but do you have someone you're suspicious of? Asked Mo Fan. Mu Bai was a green tea man without a doubt, but he was definitely not the same kind as Hong Jun, who would twist his personality to achieve his personal desires. The guy was extremely self-willed, and most importantly, they had all grown up together. There was no way he would have been brainwashed by the Black Vatican. The truth is, I only heard this from my mum a while ago. It's not like I'm trying to hide something. Mu Bai's voice turned slightly deeper. Oh, Mu Bai was about to tell them his speculations when a few imperial magicians in purple robes flew toward them from the inner walls. Initially, they thought the imperial magicians were heading toward the Clock Tower Magic Association, but they were surprised when the magicians landed before them. The captain of the imperial magicians scanned the group and asked coldly, "Pardon me, is Fang Gu here?" "I am." Fang Gu did not hide his identity. He slowly walked forward and said with a hollow laugh, "As a sinful man, I'm quite honored that the captain of the imperial magicians, Lu Huan, is here to catch me. To bother wasting your time on a murderer like me, you imperial magicians are quite intriguing." Fang Gu had already mentioned that he would turn himself into the enforcement union. However, in the middle of such a terrifying disaster, it was a great relief if the city merely managed to survive. The enforcement union had no time to waste on a criminal like him. Fang Gu was simply going with the flow. As a matter of fact, he was quite intrigued to learn who this great Deacon Hu Jin was, a man trying to give the 1,000-year ancient capital a burial ceremony. "You all are coming with me." Lu Huan waved his hand, ordering his men to take the group with them. Mo Fan was entirely confused, but considering that these imperial magicians would simply bring them to Zhu Meng, he simply let the magicians take them away. The imperial magicians all had the ability to fly, so they each took 2 people with them. Mo Fan, Zhang Xiaoho, Su Xiaoluo, Fang Gu, Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, Lu Ru, Wang Sanpang, and Zhao Kunsen were all dragged away. Initially, Mo Fan thought the imperial magicians would bring them to the Clock Tower Magic Association, but they ended up arriving at some residence. It was hard to find such a spacious residence when the inner city was fully crowded with people. It was obvious that the place was somewhere important. "Captain, you can go back now. The Netherbone ruler is still watching the city. We'll bring them in," said one of the imperial magicians. Lu Huan nodded. He quickly flew into the sky and headed for the northern gate with a single beat of the enormous pair of white wings on his back. The inner city was not too big. It did not take much time for the captain of the imperial magicians to travel back and forth, yet it was quite shocking that they would send the captain of the Imperial Magicians to hunt Fang Gu down for what he had done. The status of the captain of the Imperial Magicians was even higher than Councilman Zhu Meng here in the ancient capital. He was in charge of the strongest troop of magicians in the whole ancient capital, consisting of the best advanced magicians. The flesh-mound corps officials had greatly disrupted the evacuation of the people in the outer city. However, the Imperial Magicians still managed to eliminate many flesh-mound corps officials within a short period of time. Otherwise, at least half of the people who had successfully evacuated to the inner city would have died. So he's Lu Huan. Rumors say he's the strongest man in the ancient capital. He once killed an undead ruler on his own, said Zhou Ming, admiringly glancing after the purple figure flying away. It's exaggerating to say he's the strongest, but he's definitely in the top 3, said a rather friendly-looking Imperial magician with a smile. He led the group into the residence. The residence was in fact fairly crowded. Most of the people were hiding indoors. The beautiful garden was full of boxes containing medicines, leaving only a single path that people could barely walk through. "Feel free to sit anywhere," said an old man, walking out before the group reached the building. The group exchanged glances with one another. Mo Fan was the first to sit down on a box of medicine. The others proceeded to take their seats, although they were still utterly confused by the situation. "On behalf of the higher-ups in the Magic Association, I must thank you for escorting Fang Gu here." The black-haired old man gave them a slight bow. Fang Gu was completely confused too. Even though he had committed murders, was it really necessary to send him here, considering the situation they were in? There was no doubt that this old man was the president of the Clock Tower Magic Association, Han Ji. First the captain of the Imperial Magicians, and now the president of the Clock Tower Magic Association. Everyone was a great authority of the ancient capital, whose decisions could decide the fate of the entire city. "Fang Gu, do you still have a portion of the water of Kun?" Han Ji switched his gaze to Fang Gu and asked straightforwardly, "Why are you asking about this? Aren't you going to punish me for my sins?" asked Fang Gu in confusion. The Black Vatican was after the water of Kun. Why were the people of the Magic Association after it too? Even though the water of Kun was the key to this conspiracy, the disaster had already taken place. What was the point of finding the water of Kun now? "We'll talk about your sins later. Saving the lives of millions of people in the inner city is our top priority now. The water of Kun is the only thing that can neutralize the effect of the Dew of 9 Serenities. We hope you can hand over the water of Kun, so we can put the undead to sleep." Han Ji's voice was calm, yet the stern look in his eyes took away one's courage to oppose him. The group was shocked when they heard the information. It turned out that the water of Kun was able to neutralize the Dew of 9 Serenities. If they sprinkled the water of Kun into the clouds, the undead would no longer be able to move in the day. The ocean of undead would simply sink into the soil. That was great news. There was hope to save the city. Fang Gu never thought about that, but his shocked expression was soon replaced with a hint of hopelessness. "I'm sorry, really sorry. If I still have the water of Kun, I would hand it over as a way to cleanse my sins, but I've already used the remaining water of Kun to refine my undead. I'll summon it out, and if you manage to acquire the water of Kun from it, I won't mind you killing it," said Fang Gu honestly. Following his words, Fang Gu drew a star pattern and summoned the crimson-red skeleton in front of the group. It glanced at its surroundings with a blank, bony face. "Han Ji, the water of Kun can save the people of this city. They're going to," said Fang Gu too. The skeleton, even though his tone was calm, everyone could sense the unwillingness in his words. "There's no need for that. It looks like we won't be able to escape our fate," Han Ji mumbled to himself after taking a single glance at the skeleton, which seemed to have given his soul a huge blow. "We won't be able to escape our fate." It was impossible to retrieve the water of Kun even if they smelted the skeleton. Their only hope to neutralize the Dew of 9 Serenities was gone. The city, even protected by the golden barrier, would soon be destroyed, regardless if it was daytime or nighttime. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 639. The Undead's Ancestor. Oh right, Brother Fan, don't you have the underground holy spring? Asked Zhang Xiaohou, as a sudden thought crossed his mind. As soon as Zhang Xiaohou asked the question, the eyes of President Han Ji flickered as he interrupted, the underground holy spring from Bo City. Yes, the underground holy spring from Bo City. A masked man in a gray-white outfit slowly walked out. His glittering eyes were looking at Mo Fan. Mo Fan scrutinized the man thoroughly, yet had no idea who he was. At the same time, Lu Ru moved closer to Mo Fan and whispered to him, "It's him. He's the one that gave me the blood serums and has been following us. You have been keeping an eye on the Black Vatican, but why were you watching the people of Hua Village and Zhang Xiaohou, too?" "I was entrusted by someone to do so," said the man. Entrusted? Mo Fan and Zhang Xiaohou were even more confused. "We'll discuss it later. Besides, I can't tell you even if you ask. Mo Fan, do you still have the underground holy spring?" The man remained on the topic. "I do, but I'm in a similar position to Fang Gu," Mo Fan said honestly. If he had known earlier, he would have managed to squeeze some of the remaining underground holy spring out from the little loach pendant. He had used the same trick to bait the Black Vatican into the trap at the Magic City. However, the underworld river had already taken shape inside the little loach pendant. It was impossible to retrieve any underground holy spring water from it. "I don't understand. Why does the underground holy spring matter in this situation?" asked Mu Bai curiously. It was the same question that Mo Fan wanted to ask. They were clearly in need of the water of Kun, but why would they suddenly be interested in the underground holy spring? Could it be that it had the same effect? "Brother Fan, the truth is, our Bo City and the villages came from the same ancestor a long time ago," said Zhang Xiaohou. More precisely, Bo City was once a tribe just like the villages. They moved far away to the south, and after 1,000 years, they slowly grew into a city in the south. Meanwhile, the villages remained isolated from the world, hence they simply remained as villages, added the mysterious man. The jaws of Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, Zhao Kunsen, and Wang Sanpang dropped. That was more than 1,000 years ago. It's like saying we are all descendants of the Yellow Emperor. "I bet we're not even related to the people from the villages anymore," said Wang Sanpang. The mysterious man nodded. The kid was right about that. Many years had passed since their ancestors had moved to Bo City. Everyone would be related if you looked back long enough into the past. However, Mo Fan suddenly recalled what Xingxia had mentioned to him. Bo City were the descendants of some ancient emperor, who moved to the south and developed his power, starting from a village. In other words, Xingxia's teacher had speculated right. The ancestors of the people of Bo City were from the ancient capital, and were from the same origin as the people in the villages that were isolated from the world. The people of Bo City now have mixed lineage since there were many outsiders that moved to the city. It's hard to say if anyone still has the pure bloodline now. However, there's something that can prove that Bo City was from the same origin as the villages. The underground holy spring that the people of Bo City protected for generations was actually the water of Kun, said President Han Ji, who had been relatively quiet. Underground holy spring, water of Kun. That's right, the authorities of Bo City had been protecting the underground holy spring because of some teaching of their ancestors, too. It was exactly the same as the water of Kun. Mo Fan slapped his forehead. Why hadn't he thought about it? This also explained why the Black Vatican was so eager to acquire the underground holy spring and kept on chasing after him. The underground holy spring that Bo City had protected for centuries. The people of Bo City were the descendants of some ancient emperor that had migrated to the south. The underground holy spring that the Black Vatican tried so hard to acquire. The water of Kun and the teachings of ancestors of the villages. The enraging spring and the dew of 9 serenities. The underground holy spring and the water of Kun. It turned out that every piece of information was already right in front of him, yet he did not even link them together. Little Loach, spit out the underground holy spring at once, you're in big trouble. The end was still the same. Mo Fan's underground holy spring was already refined into the Little Loach's source of energy ages ago. If they could not retrieve the water of Kun from Fang Gu's skeleton, there was no way they could retrieve a single drop of the underground holy spring from the Little Loach pendant. Mo Fan desperately wanted to end the disaster too, but they just happened to be out of luck. It was as Han Ji described. They could not escape from their fate. It seems like our plan isn't going to work. The ancient king is still going to be awakened. Everything will be destroyed, said Han Ji with a dull expression as if he had already predicted the outcome. There's still hope if we can find the tomb of the ancient king. The mysterious man had no intention of giving up. It's been 2,000 years since the end of the Qin dynasty, but has anyone found his tomb? Well, I guess we'll find it soon, as he's going to wake up and become the king of this city that's going to turn into a kingdom of undead. Said Han Ji. Qin dynasty. The ancient king. The undead's ancestor. Mo Fan came to a realization when he heard the words. History. This world's history was identical to the world he came from, so the ancient king they were talking about. It was the emperor of the Qin dynasty, Ying Zheng. It's him. Ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. How could a person that has been dead for over 2,000 years be responsible for this calamity here in the 21st century? No, 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 this is a world of magic. The history records in this world clearly stated that the discoverer of the undead element was the emperor of the Qin dynasty, Ying Zheng. History even mentioned that he had spent his whole life trying to find the pill of eternal life, just so he could stay alive forever. Eternal life. Before, Mo Fan would simply laugh at the thought of it. However, he no longer found it amusing. If the history of the two worlds were identical, if the emperor of the Qin dynasty Ying Zheng in this world of magic was the inventor of the undead element, the greatest threat of this calamity would be his awakening, and the eternal life he sought was actually turning himself into an invincible undead. Only when he was awakened would he be able to control this huge army of undead. Its numbers were so overwhelming that it could simply shroud the sky and the sun. The army was so large that it was going to overrun the enormous ancient capital like an ocean. Mo Fan was utterly astonished after learning the truth. The first time he experienced the vastness and fear of this world of magic was during the calamity of Bo City, when he witnessed humans being freely massacred by the demon beasts. He could no longer evaluate the world with the same understanding he brought with him from his world. And this time, an emperor from 2,000 years ago was making a comeback. His awakening and crowning ceremony were going to be an unstoppable massacre committed by the undead. The ancient capital was the gift the undead had presented to their king who was going to dominate the world. After all, it had once belonged to him. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 640. The Erased Memory. So we are back to square one now with no idea what to do. Is our fate really in heaven's hands? Han Ji raised his head and glanced outside of the golden barrier. His eye sockets covered in wrinkles suddenly contracted. His eyeballs almost fell right through them. The mountain zombie. The mountain zombie was already in the city north. Its gigantic figure, which poked straight into the dark clouds, was too strong of a visual impact. Its eyes emitted the glow of death, already sentencing the whole place to death. Great Deacon Hu Jin, right. Mu Bai, weren't you suspicious of someone? Said Zhou Ming suddenly to Mu Bai as she recalled something. Why do you know the name of Salon's right-hand man? Blurted out the mysterious man in surprise. As Zhang Xiaohou explained what he had witnessed in the Xianqi area, the mysterious man suddenly came to a realization. It turned out that him watching over Hua village had somehow saved Zhang Xiaohou's life, as it prevented the Black Vatican from doing anything reckless. It's not me being suspicious, I just want to tell you something that my mum unintentionally told me a while ago, spoke up Mu Bai. Then tell us quick, the lives of millions of people are at stake. The slightest clue might be the key to stopping the disaster, said Mo Fan. Mu Bai nodded and said with a deep voice, Yu Ang, I believe you still remember him. The Black Vatican's lackey. What about him? Asked Zhou Ming. My mum only learned that Yu Ang was a member of the Black Vatican recently. She immediately followed up with a sigh and said, if it wasn't for my uncle, who provided for him and recommended him to Mu Juoyan, he wouldn't even have had the chance to live a comfortable life, said Mu Bai. It's true that the Mu family was the one that brought in Yu Ang before Mu Juoyan adopted him. It's so frustrating to learn that he was actually serving the Black Vatican, said Zhao Kunsen, while clenching his teeth. Yu Ang was already with the Black Vatican before joining the Mu family. Mu Bai, are you implying that your uncle was actually the one who brought Yu Ang into your family? Mo Fan confirmed as he caught the important piece of information. I don't know, but I must tell you that the person who relocated the survivors of Bo City to the ancient capital was my uncle. He was responsible for it, emphasized Mu Bai. Isn't your uncle Mu He? Blurted out Zhao Kunsen. As soon as the name was mentioned, Zhang Xiaoho palpitated with terror, as he suffered a sharp pain that felt like his head was about to explode. President Han Ji's eyes flickered. His face was filled with shock when he saw Zhang Xiaoho suddenly in pain. Han Ji walked up to Zhang Xiaoho and grabbed his wrist. He quickly tore his sleeves open. A black mark like a centipede was under Zhang Xiaoho's skin on his arm. It looked like it was trying to dig deeper into his flesh, an extremely terrifying sight. Amnesia bug, Han Ji exclaimed in shock. Su Xiaoluo and Mo Fan were stunned too. They were totally unaware of the black centipede inside Zhang Xiaohu's body. It was difficult to tell how long the black centipede had stayed in his body. It was already as thick as a thumb. The thought of something like it inside someone's body was incredibly gruesome. Zhang Xiaoho seemed to be in extreme pain. His lips almost started bleeding as he bit them, trying to endure the pain. Han Ji's body unleashed a milky white glow, as a healing spirit butterfly with huge wings danced on his fingertips. As Han Ji lifted his finger softly, the healing spirit floated into Zhang Xiaohu's body and collided with the scary black poisonous centipede. Zhang Xiaohu's skin nearly turned transparent. A line of poison extended all the way from his wrist to his shoulder, then to the back of his neck, before disappearing into the back of his head. It's the amnesia bug. No wonder he couldn't remember what happened or who the person was. The amnesia bug is an eerie psychic element creature. It can eat the most important memory hidden deep inside one's heart. If the person somehow remembers what happened during the day, it also means their life has come to an end, explained the mysterious man. So that means the more memory he recovers. Su Xiaoluo looked at the mysterious man in astonishment. The more he recovered, the closer he was to death. The medicine you've treated him with has most likely slowed down the amnesia bug's growth. Otherwise, the poisonous creature would have killed him earlier. It's a vicious art invented with the combination of the psychic element and curse element. Han Ji gasped. Zhang Xiaoho was in incredible pain, his body soaked in cold sweat. Even his veins were about to burst out from his skin. The scariest thing was, the amnesia bug that looked like a centipede seemed to notice that its life was in danger. It followed the black line and climbed all the way to the back of Zhang Xiaohu's head after killing the healing spirit. The amnesia bug has already grown into its adult phase. It's extremely difficult to kill it now. It seems like not only did your friend hear Great Deacon Hu Jin's voice, he must have learned their secret, too. However, he couldn't remember it. He only remembered the man's voice, said the mysterious man in a deep voice. Mo Fan and Su Xiaoluo's hearts flinched when they saw Zhang Xiaoho suffering. They initially thought Zhang Xiaoho had already fully recovered. He was only pretending to suffer from amnesia in order to protect himself from the Black Vatican. Even Zhang Xiaoho himself had no clue that he had actually forgotten the most important secret he was hiding in his heart. If the deepest memory surged into his mind, it would bring death upon him. Mu He, it's Mu He. screamed Zhang Xiaohou at the top of his lungs in the midst of the incredible pain, and, stop it now, or you're going to die, yelled Han Ji. The memory after Zhang Xiaohou encountered the hatchet corpse general surged into his mind, like a dream that he had forgotten for a long time. However, the more he thought about it, the stronger the sensation he felt, as if his brain was about to explode. Suddenly, the mysterious man made his move, hitting the back of Zhang Xiaohou's neck with a hard blow to knock him out. Zhang Xiaohou fell unconscious. He stopped searching for the lost memory. Meanwhile, the vein filled with the terrifying black poison slowly vanished too. His body was pale white. Not a trace of blood could be seen on his face. Everyone gasped when they saw the amnesia bug. Suffering from amnesia was not scary, but what was scarier was when you thought you remembered everything, yet you were completely unaware that you had already forgotten the most important part of your life in the past. We're lucky that the president is here, as his third element is the healing element. He only managed to save his life with his super-level cultivation. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaohou would have died when the poison was triggered. The mysterious man glanced at the fainted Zhang Xiaohou with huge relief. Mo Fan's face was twitching. The Black Vatican was so vicious that there was nothing they would not do. Zhang Xiaohou managed to save his life once with his wisdom, yet little did everyone know, he was already a dead man. If they had not been summoned here because of Fang Gu, he would be a dead man now. Mu He, it's really you. Mo Fan clenched his fists as his chest heaved in anger. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.